welcome to the D&Z Film Reviews. My name is Dylan.
And I'm Nathan.
And today we'll be reviewing Hotel Rwanda.
So Hotel Rwanda takes place during the Rwandan genocide, which happened in the early to mid 1990s. And the film stars Don Cheadle as a portrayal of Paul Rusesabagina. I believe that's how you say it. I don't remember how to say it exactly, but he portrays a real life character who was actually very prevalent in the events that unfolded during the Rwandan genocide. And I think the film, it shows kind of like an inside perspective, like an at-home perspective of what it looked like to be part of this genocide, just as like a normal person. Where other films, such as another film we're going to be reviewing, it shows like how outsiders saw this genocide. This one kind of took a look at what's it like from a home perspective.
Right. So just to give a little bit of context on what the Rwandan genocide was. It was there are two ethnicities in Rwanda: the Hutus and the Tutsi. The Hutu are the majority and the Tutsi are the minority. After the Rwandan president was shot down in his airplane, the Hutu blamed the Tutsi for shooting down the airplane, and that sparked a 100-day period of genocide in which the Hutu massacred almost 1 million Tutsi civilians across the country. In fact, 70% of the Tutsi population was killed during the genocide.
And it's just crazy to think about because that was 100 days. Like, you have events like the Holocaust, obviously. Those took place over the span of almost a decade.
Around 3 to 4 years, yeah.
Yeah, this was 100 days. So that was like 1,000 people were dying every day.
For sure. And the manner in which these people were killed is absolutely brutal when you think about it. They were killed by machetes. And just absolute carnage and massacre across the country. It's a very brutal period in history. And as the film shows, it gives a lot of perspectives onto what happened and most importantly the role of the UN during that crisis as well.
Yeah, so basically to get into the plot of the story, it's based off a true story where Paul shelters a bunch of Tutsi and native foreign Hutus into his hotel, and he bribes off a Tutsi general into protecting the hotel so that they're not attacked. And it kind of just goes through showing the struggles that they had to go through and how it just gradually kept getting worse and worse to where they couldn't even bribe them at one point.
For sure, very true. So start off with we'll go into the camera and directing choices. So for the cinematography in this film, honestly, nothing really stood out to me as being anything too special or memorable. I thought it was a very standard filmmaking and cinematography overall. Same thing with the directing choices. It was very, standard. One of the critiques of the film that I personally had was that although the film had a great atmosphere and acting, I felt like in order to show just the gravity and the brutality of the situation of the Rwandan genocide, I wish they showed more of the carnage or the violence that was occurring inside the country, on top of showing Paul's journey in trying to save these people. I feel like that way would have been more impactful and more resonating with the viewer to show this is how serious this situation is. However, I will add, there was one scene that I think was the most famous scene of the film. It's when Paul is driving back to the hotel and it's dark and it's foggy, and then he's driving in a car and the car bumps and he's wondering what's going on, and he gets out and he just sees there are bodies of Tutsis just filled with the road, covering the road, and basically he's not able to drive. That scene, the directing of showing how it was misty and dark, and then the mist clears to show all the bodies, that was a very impactful scene, which I thought that was very well done.
So I think in terms of the directing choices, I think it was a story. We saw the story through Paul's eyes. Paul was on the screen almost the entire movie. We always saw what was happening to Paul, and we saw what Paul was going through. And I think that was the right choice, because this is a real person and a real person's story we're hearing. And the camera, it wasn't anything too special. It had that 2000s camera work. It looked pretty clear and colorful. Yeah, I didn't mind it, but yeah, it wasn't anything too special.
Sorry, you continue.
And then in terms of the directing, I think the scene where it shows the bodies, it was obviously something that happened to him in real life, so it had to be hit well, and they definitely did hit on it. it reminded me of a scene from the movie The Mist, where it's like they see there's like this mist around. He gets out of his car, and then it all just clears. But then like something horrible happens.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the way it was also shot kind of reminded me of that movie. The way how like the perspectives and like the lighting effects on the characters. It wouldn't shock me if it was the same person, but I have no idea.
For sure. So we'll move on next to the acting review. There, as a whole, I would say the acting in this film was pretty good. But the performance by Don Cheadle as Paul, that was something special. I really thought that he brought his A game to portraying this character. Very well done performance. I would say like Oscar nominee worthy. Very well done. I think one of the most impactful scenes that he had was right after the car scene with the bodies. He comes home and he comes to his hotel and he's trying to complete his composure to his employees to show that everything is okay. But you can see as a viewer that he is losing it. He's trying his best to not. He's very distressed. He's trying his best to just hold it in. And as soon as that door shuts to his private room, he breaks down. That was a very well acted scene, and it just shows the trauma that Paul must have been enduring during that situation.
Yeah, I think the acting was good by all sides of the story, because you see Paul, like, he's so stressed out by the situation, and he doesn't, like, he knows that he'll probably die. Like, he was probably in the mindset that he will die protecting these people, and he was okay with it. And Don Cheadle shows like this strong mindset that the man had.
Yeah.
I think also there was a UN general that kind of came in and visited every few minutes to kind of give him like the rundown of what was happening.
Yeah.
He even looked like very distressed. Like, he did a very good job acting because he knew it was just not in his hands. Like, he wanted to do as much as he could, but because of the UN's like stance on the genocide, there was nothing he could do, and he felt awful about it.
For sure.
And yeah, everyone, I think all the supporting roles definitely hit their marks.
Yeah.
I think overall it's a very well acted, like very well cast, very well acted.
100%. Okay, moving on to atmosphere. What are your thoughts?
I think the atmosphere was definitely dark. Like, it's one of those films where it's like it's daytime the whole time, and you see the brutal things happening, but it's still like the events still are pretty disturbing even within it being daytime. And then it's like nighttime, and you see like people getting like shot and stuff and like hacked. I think that's definitely something that they did some approach they took that worked out very well in their favor, because it was explicit, but it wasn't overly explicit.
Yeah.
Because I suppose they didn't really want the film to be rated R.
Yeah, for sure. I think the atmosphere was also well done, especially captured the madness that was going on during that time. But like I said before, I just feel like if the director showed more of the carnage or the violence that was occurring to the Tutsi people, or just the genocide itself, it would darken the atmosphere even more to show the gravity of the situation and how serious and brutal this conflict was.
Alright, so I think now we're going to go into the social outcry. So I think the social outcry could have been better tackled. Although it is like a mini story, they wanted to focus on the story of the hotel. Yeah. Like, that was their number one concern. I think they still could have showed the social outcry a little better. Like, they showed how the UN like wanted to help Paul, but they had no power. But a lot of stuff, like these big events in the actual genocide, it was just kind of told to us off screen. Like, it was told to us that the lady prime minister was assassinated, which was a huge part of the genocide's history. And it's kind of, in the movie, it's just kind of displayed as, my troops just got murdered defending the prime minister. Is she dead? Yeah. And that's basically what the whole thing was.
For sure. I think one of the main social outcries was to show compassion to other individuals. For sure, like, especially in a society, we always see ourselves pitting one side against each other. You can see the situation in Russia and Ukraine. There's always that conflict brewing between two different people and their backgrounds. And I think Hotel Rwanda shows what can happen if this hatred towards another individual or another group of people is left unchecked. We resort to barbarism and brutality to solve our problems. That's just with us within human nature. And I feel like Hotel Rwanda does a good job of calling that out. But I do agree with Zussman. I feel like if they had tried to hit home more on this point, it would have been much more impactful to the viewer. I just think that they could have done more, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, because it was a story about Paul, and it was Paul's event, so maybe he didn't go through it like other people did. But I'm sure everything in that movie didn't actually happen. So if they could have like added a tiny bit more just for it to be a little more impactful, I think that would have helped the film.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think because with these things, you should target the fact of how much of a failure it was for humanity.
Well, 100%.
And I think the film doesn't really go there.
100%. I just wanted, before we go into our film review, one thing I did like about this film that I want to mention was I just remember specifically hearing that "cut the tall trees" line during the radio.
Mm-hmm.
That was chilling. Like, I got chills when I heard that, because to think, if you put yourself in the role, in the mindset of a Tutsi, knowing what's about to happen, and you're hearing those words on the national radio, it's bone chilling to think about. I'm being hunted. It's crazy. I really like that moment.
And they're talking about you because Tutsis were described as like very tall. Like they were way taller than Hutus, and they were, and this, when you hear that, it's like, oh shoot, that means they're coming for us.
It got real. So I like that moment of the movie. So moving on to the film reviews, for me personally, I would rate it. I'd say a 3 out of 5. Yeah. It was a solid movie. Very very popular. A lot of people know about Hotel Rwanda. I just think that the atmosphere and the overall cinematography was standard. It was nothing too special. They did a good job capturing the essence of what was happening. But overall, I still feel like that they could have done more. But what makes the movie so memorable in my eyes would be Don Cheadle's acting. He really drives it home as the main character, Paul, and he really carries the film on his back, and it shows. He does a very very good job in that.
So honestly, I think I'll give it a 3.5. I definitely think, like, in terms of movies based off historic events, I think it was one of the better ones. It wasn't perfect, but I definitely liked it. Like, I think the acting was very well done. The pacing of the story worked. It all just kind of worked in a sense, but yeah, I think just the fact it didn't tackle more of the topic it was showing and stuff like that, I think that's just why I bumped it down a tiny.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that as well. All right, that wraps up our video. So thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching. Take care.